back. That's right. It's FRPLive.tv. I have the pleasure of introducing two great gentlemen. Before the camera goes to them, they're known as urban specialists. Why did I play that clip? Because you wanted to see how New York was at an earlier time. All right. Shout outs to Dawn Michelle from Dawn Michelle Promotions. This is FRPLive.tv, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Lance and Todd Feurtado.
Hey.
All right.
Grace and peace, family.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here with you, brothers.
Likewise.
All right. So let's go back 360.
Sure.
Okay, just like we did in the first clip. Okay. So you've worked with individuals such as Kenneth Supreme, Happy Mason, Fat Cat, and many others. The rap community has embraced you, such as artists like 50 Cent, Fat Joe, Jay-Z, and many others. Tell me, guys, what brings you here to FRPTV, and how have you gone back 360 and laid the path for so many people? Let's talk about it.
Wow. So, I guess our journey here today, we would have to reflect back. That's why we were so mesmerized about the way everything was grafted. We really appreciate it. And, just reflecting back at a time, we're 60 kids. So growing up, we grew up in a time and an era where racism was at an all-time high, and it was out in the open. And, we grew up at a young age in Jamaica, Queens. We're originally, and Todd always says this because I really don't claim it too much, we're from Harlem.
From Harlem?
We're from Harlem, 111th and 8th Avenue. But we moved out of Harlem in the early 60s, and we've been in Jamaica, Queens all our lives. So I'm South Side,
Okay.
Do or die like that.
I'm all side.
All right.
Don't get me wrong, we're not geographical, but I'm South Side. And at an early age, we got involved in a lot of different things, just looking at what was going on around us. Like back in them days, rap was basically unheard of. So we didn't have young folks making the type of money they're making today, producing their thoughts on wax or on DVD or CDs or whatever. Basically, blacks and minorities wasn't even looked at as professionals. We didn't hold positions like executives or supervisors or CEOs. We wasn't looked at like entrepreneur. I guess the average job back then was factory jobs, things of that nature. And, everybody grew up with that dream or that fantasy of owning their own home with the white picket fence and having their car parked in front of it. But reality, you couldn't achieve those or receive those things that you would think about at, a regular 9 to 5. I think minimum wage back then was $1.65 or something.
$1.65.
Yeah, so it was really, kind of, different, like really, really different back then. The block that we grew up on, 142nd Street in Jamaica, Queens, I described this block and the homes and the families that was on that block. Every house on that block had what I describe as a fully functional family, right? We grew up in a single parent home. Not to take anything away from my dad, but we, single parent home, and my mom did the best she could with what she had. And when I describe the neighborhood as a fully functional, community, that means every house on that block had a mom and a dad.
Is your mother alive today?
No, unfortunately, we lost our mom back in '06. But she had a chance to witness our change, and so we were grateful for that, But reflecting back, those houses had dual incomes. So those kids had what they wanted. We didn't have what we needed. So we kind of took matters into our own hands, at the young age of 11, 12, and 13, calling ourselves, trying to help mom make ends meet. And so back then we was, involved with one of the biggest gangs that I guess equivalent today to the Bloods, the Crips, MS-13s, whatever, some of your biggest gangs, that was, we were equivalent to that. And the gang back then was the Seven Crowns.
The Seven Crowns.
Yeah.
Right.
Were the Seven Crowns ever affiliated with the Black Panther movement at any time?
Somewhat, yeah. It's more than safe to say yes.
You could say that because it was the time, it was the era, it was a lot going on. And, you know, it was a lot of, you know, Black power movements, sort of say like today, Black Lives Matter, you know. So it was a lot of movements that were, you know, being orchestrated and moving forward. And we were used politically as pawns also back then, you know, when various night centers or things in our community was forced to be and shut down, some of our politicians came and gathered us up and said, hey, we're going to march or rally to keep this open, you know. So back then, we didn't really have the understanding of being politically involved with your community and what a difference, you know, a person can make, you know. But I guess we'll, as we move on in time, we'll get to that, you know. But yeah, so, you know, and some of the names that you mentioned, we all grew up together.
You all grew up together?
We all grew up together.
So Supreme you grew up with?
Supreme went to school with us.
Okay.
Cat and all of us, we were in the same gang. We lived on the same block, basically. And the junior high school that we went to, Preem and Prince and other people went to the school with us. They were a little younger, not too much younger, you know.
Right.
But, you know, we were all there together.
Okay, now how was the influence between you, Supreme, Fat Cat? How did that all transition?
You know, back in that time, there was a lot of separation, you know. As I made mention, we were part of a movement, you know, which was deemed to be a gang, Seven Crowns, and Supreme were part of the 5% Nation, God Body. And so those two movements was two of the biggest movements in Queens back in the 70s, God Body, Seven Crowns. And, you know, we was just, different crews was just at each other's throat, you know.
Did you have the support from the Black Panthers?
Wait a minute. I want to correct that. More title is the Black Mafia, not the Black Panthers. They was around, but we were more affiliated with the Black Mafia.
But that's what people would try to,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, we don't want to put a bad stigma out there saying we was affiliated with something when we really wasn't. It was more or less the Black Mafia with affiliation with the Seven Crowns.
And how did the Black Mafia get developed?
That was just titles that was given
just
to
titles.
us.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like people was like, you know, because they're organized, you know, and they're Black, and you know,
They're Black, proud, and strong.
And better know it.
and have a better sense. I mean, and I guess it's like devil's advocate. What is there any type of sense in doing wrong? Well, if you go to street rules, codes, and procedures, then you would say yes, because the land of the law of the land had different segments, and there was laws you had to abide by, which today it sounds crazy because the way things are going on now, it's totally out of control. But back then, we had rules, codes, and procedures as do's and don'ts, and there's certain things you had to abide by within yourself to be part of, because we wouldn't allow just an idiot to roll with us, because an idiot can cause a domino effect. If you put one rotten apple in the barrel with a bunch of good apples, leave them there too long, they all gonna turn rotten.
If you could say we was good apples. So like, you know, to answer your question a little more, you know, Black Panthers actually came in and tried to stop the war between God Body and the Seven Crowns.
So was there a period where this war stopped at any point?
Yeah. It stopped.
Can you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it kind of fizzled out like in, I want to say 75, 76, because we all were striving for a common goal, and that was to embed ourselves and our lives, you know, in our communities and our families, you know. So our family just happened to be connected on all sides of the town. And we just played a major role in just bringing all the Queens together and removing that separation.